This screencast will show you how to identify polyatomic ions. How do we look for them? Well, we look for more than two elements in our compound. So, just to backtrack a little bit, if we have just two elements in our compound, like sodium chloride, for example, we would have a capital N for the Na in sodium and a capital Cl for the C in chlorine. And that would indicate that we have just two elements or a binary compound, and we would just name the Na sodium and name the Cl chlorine that we changed to chloride. So that would be binary. But what about polyatomics? Well, let's say sodium is actually followed by two elements, nitrogen and oxygen. We can't name each of these elements separately. I always say that our compounds just get a first name and a last name. So if you try to give it three names, if you try to name this sodium nitrogen oxide, you've given it a middle name. And you can't give this compound the middle name business. You are not its mama. You just call it respectfully by its first and its last name. So then what is that? Well, it's going to be sodium followed by a polyatomic ion name for the N and the three O's. So you would call it sodium, and then NO3 would be the nitrate ion. So you're looking for more than two capital letters. The only positive polyatomic ion to worry about at the beginning of the compound is ammonium. All the others are negative, like the nitrate in the second half of the name. The subscripts are important. They need to match up exactly. For example, NO3 is nitrate, NO3 minus, but NO2 is nitrite. And so having those match up exactly and correct spelling is going to be important. If there are any parentheses, for example, let's say magnesium was in a compound with nitrate, there would be some parentheses, and you can find the polyatomic ion within those parentheses, and you can kind of ignore those numbers for right now. So that sort of gets us through the details of identifying when we actually have a polyatomic ion. So let's look at some examples of how we find them. So again, we look and we say, oh, we've got more than two capital letters. We don't see an ammonium at the beginning of the name, so we must have a polyatomic ion here. We scan down for NO3. We stop when we find it, and that one's nitrate. Here we want to actually recognize, oh my, we do have three elements, there's more than two, and we have NH4, which is that positive polyatomic ion. We're going to try to keep our eye out for ammonium. No ammonium, but two more elements, and so the OH is found on our list. We scan down and we stop when we hit the OH, which is called hydroxide. Here we notice we've got ammonium. We've actually got four elements though, so we're looking for another polyatomic ion. You can have ammonium combined with a second polyatomic ion. And so we'll scan down our list for PO4, and that one is phosphate. And the last polyatomic ion we've got for an example is CO3 or carbonate. So we're looking for more than two elements, for three or more elements, and we're finding our polyatomic ion on our list.